Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. It's been a long time since I've done another reading vlog. In my defense, I haven't been reading much. It's finals week right now, so things have been busy. I've tried to pick up a few books here and there, but nothing has really stuck out as really interesting. I haven't truly committed to a book yet, but yesterday I was driving to LA as like a little practice run for my internship, and I ended up stopping by Sony. I went to a Jeopardy taping, which was really interesting. I'm in the July 16th and 17th episodes if you're looking in the audience. I'm in the second row. But yeah, I did a lot of driving yesterday, so I had an audiobook on. I'm now like halfway through the second book in the Greenbone saga, which is Jade War. So the first book is Jade City. So the plot of this book picks up about a year after the end of the first book in the trilogy. What the story is about is that there's an island country called Kacon, and they have an element called jade on this island. And basically, if you have jade, it gives you superpowers, sort of, but you have to be a green bone in order to harness it, which the people of Kacon are. And the island is mostly controlled by two crime syndicate families. So one of them is the Call family, which we are following them, mainly the siblings, but also some other people as they navigate politics and family drama. And it's so good. I mean, really excellent. I think the first book really it tied itself off really well, but it continues with like a new and interesting kind of plot line that is definitely still continuous, but it really builds off of it to have a whole new arc. And I'm really loving it so far. I can't really mention much of what's going on in this book because it spoils the first book, but just know that I'm having a really good time. I'm about 50% of the way through. I will give an update by the end, but I'm sure that it's gonna be like another 5-star. I know there's only 3 books in the series, and I'm really sad that there's only one more. I'm gonna have to like hold myself back from reading it because I don't want to finish the series so fast. But honestly, this is like one of the only fantasy novels that I've just been so excited to read recently that have really held my attention. Don't know what I'm gonna do when the series is over. Thank you for watching. I will give an update soon. Bye. I'm gagged. Holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. Hi. It's been a while since I've given an update, and it's because I started work and it's been busy. Right now I'm in like the parking lot. It's my second day technically, but this is my first time at this location since my orientation was somewhere else. And I literally got here 30 minutes early because it's like a drive from my house. And I was so anxious about being late. What if traffic just adds time? And they told me to come early and I don't know where I'm going. And I think I'm in like the visitor parking lot, but I'm not really sure. So I'm just gonna park here and I'll ask someone later. I did finish Jade War on the drive here just like 10 minutes ago, so I wanted to give my thoughts on it. I kind of mentioned this earlier, like when I was talking about this book and also the previous book, but I just really like this book series. I just feel like it's so engaging. It has so many different POVs and all of them feel so separated and important. Fonda Lee does a really good job of absolutely tearing apart, raising the stake, changing the game constantly throughout her stories. She has no fear of killing off characters that you think are going to stay and just changing their lives in ways you really can't predict, but like definitely make sense and work for the book. And I think that's really exciting. I'm really sad that there's only one more book in this trilogy. I think I need to give myself like another month break before I dive into it, but I do want to finish it really soon. Yeah, I don't know. I think we ended up some storylines really nice, and like some people had really tragic stories as well coming into this third book. But one of my characters that I really loved from the last book, I feel like he really got a chance to discover himself and grow in a way, even if it was kind of forced onto him. He got to like figure out what his life path is going to be moving forward, and I feel like it just suits the character so much, which makes me really happy. But yeah, I feel like I might end this video here, but if not, the next clip I'll talk about whatever new book I'm reading. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so tired. I might have to start filming at the super awkward angle with like the steering wheel in the way, like in the morning before work, because I like come home from work and I'm exhausted. But I really hope I'm able to keep this up. Honestly, coming to work and the physical like realities of working 40 hours a week is so hard and irritating and draining, and it really makes me like question the concept of this being the rest of my life forever. Like I can't comprehend it. And I already work 20 hours a week, but just like the extra 20 hours from the school year to now is just like so draining in so many different ways. I'm like just a naturally anxious person, and so especially starting out a new job, I'm just like, please just don't like act like I'm 5, like I don't know what's going on and like I don't know how to ask for help. I'm stressed. I'm really stressed, but hopefully it's fine. Sorry, none of what I just said made sense, and it's because I'm exhausted. But goodbye. Thank you for watching. Catch me in the next video. Hi vlog. Oh my god, it's been a week. It's actually been the past 2 weeks. 2 weeks have been a lot. Last week was finals week. This week was the first week of my internship. It's Friday now, so first week is done. I have a lot to say. Okay, I'm gonna tell a story that happened a week ago. Basically, this was like a Wednesday night of finals week. All I really had left to do was a group project and 2 different finals, and these were all for the same class. It's a predictive analytics class. And I told my group project people that I would finish recording for a group project that Wednesday night. But I came home pretty late that night because I had worked a long shift at work. I made myself dinner. I was writing a Substack post. I'll link my Substack below if you're interested in reading my Substack post and my other previous posts. But this post was especially, I don't know, it's weird to say vulnerable, like not giving like, oh, did the journal factory explode, but trying to be reflective and also honest about how this quarter has been so far and random stuff that has been going on in my head. It's like cathartic for me to write, but I'm writing from a space that's like definitely more mellow and sad and like melancholy. And it's pretty late at night at this point until suddenly my roommate comes running up the stairs. She's freaking out and she's like, oh my god, the pipe burst. And I'm like, what? Because earlier that day she had told us that like, oh, the pipes were making noises, so they were going to contact our landlady to send someone over. So I run downstairs. I'm the only one in the house at the moment other than her and someone else who was asleep the whole time. It's just me and her, and I can see the water. There is a problem. Usually when people say, oh, like a pipe burst, you're thinking, oh, the sink is leaking or something. Girl, no. It was a full water fountain in there. There's like the faucet head and there's like the right handle and the left handle. And the left handle had completely broken off. The water was just rushing like a geyser. The water pressure was high too. So much water was like spraying onto the ceiling, and it was hot water too. It was crazy. I will insert like a stock photo if I can find one of like what it looked like. She's like freaking out. She's like, do we have pots? Like, do we have pans? And I'm like, okay, yeah, like there are pots over there, go grab it. I'm just thinking to myself, like, what do we even do? But there's like carpet in my house, like right outside of the bathroom, basically. And so she's running, she grabs some pots. We put the pot like right on top of where the water is coming out. So now it's not like shooting on the ceiling, but it is still, you know, leaking under the pot all over onto the floor. So then she goes and she grabs some towels and she's like trying to like line the edge of the bathroom so it doesn't like completely soak into the carpet. And then my other roommate comes in at this point and she's with her 2 other friends and we're all in a panic. My poor roommate, whose bathroom that was, she was like collecting all of her drenched shit and like trying to like get it out of the bathroom, while at the same time like she's fiddling under the sink, because I'm like, surely it's under the sink that you can like turn the water off, but she can't figure it out. Everyone is calling someone, like non-emergency line. My roommate like called, I think, the water people. She was like, can you help? And they were like, oh, are you the owners of the house? And she was like, no. And they're like, can't help you, and like hung up the phone, which is insane, by the way. Everyone is calling someone, looking up on the internet how to turn the water off. My roommate in her house back home, she knows like how to just turn off the water for the whole house. So she's running around outside because that's where it is in her house to like turn all the water off, but she can't find it because she's never looked for it before and it's dark out. Finally, my roommate goes under the sink and manages to turn the water off. Pause, rewind. I'm the one in charge of like holding the pot down on the water. There's a moment where all the pots on the bottom of the cabinet that are like collecting the water are all full, and I'm like, okay, I should dump that out, otherwise it's useless. So I'm like, okay, I can let go of this pot on top of the water for just a second to reach down and like lift it and like pour it out into the sink. The water pressure was so intense that like the pot shoots upwards. I get drenched in water for the entire rest of the evening. I am soaking wet. So that's also important for the story, I think, in my opinion. Anyway, eventually the water does get shut off. Hella towels are being used, at least like 7 rolls of paper towels. We're mopping the walls, like we're trying to do everything we can. At one point, my roommate, whose like bathroom got destroyed, she like calls her boyfriend for like 2 minutes, and she's like, oh, can I come over and like stay with you for a few nights? Immediately when she hangs up, she looks at us and she goes, he wasn't concerned enough. We're gonna have a fight about this later. And we all dropped to the floor in laughter, because she was right. Like, he was not concerned enough about what we just went through, which was actually harrowing. It was one of those moments where we had to laugh so we didn't cry. When we finally turned off the water, my roommate was like, okay, wait, I hear the fire department. I was like, you called the fire department? She's like, yes, I did, which honestly, like, kind of valid. And then my roommate goes, guess how long it's been since this whole thing started? It started at 11:15. The water was going on for 20 minutes, and our cleanup had taken up like over an hour. Anyway, after that, I was like full of adrenaline, the exact opposite from the spectrum of emotions you could possibly feel from where I was writing. I didn't sleep until like 3 a.m. because I wanted to shower. I felt gross, and the cleanup and everything took so long. And it was just a lot. It was just a lot. And so obviously I did not get my group project done. And then the whole next day was just dealing with all these people who were coming to our house to like try to fix it. I was also downstairs with them. I just feel like uncomfortable leaving them like in the house to do whatever, and I'm not in the room. And so it took even longer for me to get my stuff done, which was bad because I had work the next day, and I was planning on using the whole day to just like, you know, grind out my tests. It was just a really long and stressful day. I literally felt like my soul was sucked out of my body, and like the exhaustion I felt deep in my bones. Like I couldn't even like express this to another human. Like one of the worst things I've ever had to deal with in my life. And mind you, while this is happening, this guy knocks on our door, and my roommate lets them in because she thinks he's part of like the, you know, plumbing people that are like water damage people that my landlady like called over. He wasn't. And like she was like freaking out because she came in my room 20 minutes later. She's like, I just let a random man in my house. Like I think he just found out somehow that like we had this problem and was like trying to offer up his services. And then our landlady was like, don't ever let anyone inside. Like I'll let you know who's coming and when they're coming, and I'll show you a picture. Like don't do that. And then later in the day, another guy came and knocked on the door and was like, hey, yeah, we get an alert like when something like this happens. Like I'm here to offer up my services. In the middle of his pitch, he stops and he goes, are you Persian? I'm like, please don't do this to me right now. I can't deal with this. And I was like, please get off my property, sir. Leave. You are not welcome here. Genuinely, like, that upset me. That the fact that these people were coming to my house that I did not ask to be at my house. I literally felt like they were vultures preying upon me. I'm just a girl. Like, please leave me alone. Like, I've been through a traumatic event. And then, yeah, because that entire day was also wasted with all these people, I didn't finish finals until literally like midnight Friday finals week. The whole weekend was like graduation stuff. So it was just a whirlwind, like no breaks before my internship started. And my internship, I could probably say like 10 different stories about this so far, but I won't because I am a little bit aware of a digital footprint. And I don't want to talk about work on the internet like this. Not that I have like more than 3 people who watch these videos, but just in case, I'll have some decorum. My manager is nice. She's a girl, which is great, but I am stressed. They're having me on this project for like 3 weeks because it's a rotational program. And they're like, you're helping us out so much. We're so grateful. Like, we have no idea how to do this. Girl, I don't know how to do this, but that's a future me problem to deal with, I guess. Maybe I need to go into a new career field, or maybe I just hate working. I think it's that. I think I don't like working. I don't want a 9-to-5. Like I do want a 9-to-5, but I don't want a 9-to-5. I just feel so exhausted. And I only work in person twice a week, and that's enough to kill me. I'm remote the other few days, and for some reason that's also bad. Yeah, I don't know what to do about that. I think I'm just like, girl, pick a struggle. I need to be grateful for the life I have, I think. But to be fair, I think if you knew what this week was like for me, I would be allowed to complain. Anyway, the other update I wanted to give is that I did start another book. It's called The Stationery Shop. It's reminding me a lot of As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow. It's like the writing style. They take place in countries where there is like political unrest in the background. And then also there is a large aspect of the novel that is about the love story between the main female character and a male character. And the male character has political interests and that affects like their relationship. But it's very like old school romantic, I don't know, like gentlemanly. I don't really know how to describe this, but yeah, they give me similar vibes. I was loving As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow a little bit more, I think, than I'm loving The Stationery Shop so far. And The Stationery Shop is not doing anything wrong. It's just that I think I didn't really know what kind of book this was when I was going into it. And I like a historical fiction. It's just that like it's a lot more romantic than I thought that it was going to be. I'm like not that obsessed with them as a couple. I think it was a little bit really insta-lovey, but I think that's like part of the plot. Like their relationship isn't perfectly stable, and I was considering like just not reading it anymore because it's not like my favorite, but I'm already past the 54% mark and it only took me like 3 hours to do that, so I'm like I might as well finish it and then, you know, whatever, I can say that I've read another book. And maybe the ending will surprise me. I think it already took a turn away from the romance focus, kind of. So I think that part maybe will be more interesting to me. That's update on reading. With the amount of commute time that I have, I feel like I should be able to read a book a week, maybe 2 books a week. That would be nice. So yeah, I will come back and update you when I finish The Stationery Shop, and then I'll probably wrap up the vlog then. Okay, so I finished The Stationery Shop and I have a lot to say about it. Literally like at work, me writing out all my thoughts the moment that I finished the book. So we're gonna get started. There's going to be a spoiler section after I finish with the non-spoilery thoughts about this book. First of all, after I finished the book, I went ahead and went back to reading the synopsis to figure out like what is actually public knowledge about this book, because I was like, am I spoiling this? But no, it kind of explains in the synopsis that the main character, her name is Roya, and she's living in Tehran in Iran in like 1954, 1950s. She's like a teenager, almost 18, like in high school, and she meets a boy. His name is Bahman or Bachman? I think it's Bahman. And like they fall in love with each other. They meet at a stationery shop. She really loves poetry and he also enjoys like poetry. They write letters to each other, but he's also like kind of politically active as well. And they like fall in love super fast, hard and fast. And then there's like this political uprising that happens, like a coup happens. There's currently like a democratic leader. He kind of gets overthrown, and on like kind of the eve that he gets overthrown, they're like engaged and they're like set to meet each other because of reasons, and then they miss each other. Like they're supposed to be at this square and Bachman doesn't show up, so she's super heartbroken because basically their marriage is called off and she doesn't understand why. And then the rest of the book kind of focuses on her moving on with like the rest of her life, but also never forgetting him. She goes to America, she goes to a college, she falls in love, or like she gets married to another guy, but you know, she never forgets him. And then 60 years later, when they're both in Boston, she meets him again. She just wants to know like why he didn't show up that day and talk about how like she never forgot him. And that's all information that's already given in the synopsis, like to set you up for the story. So like when I was first reading it and the beginning was very like insta-lovey romance, I was like, I thought this was like historical fiction. I knew that there was romantic elements to it, but I didn't think it would be that like pressing. And then around like the 50% mark, they kind of like break up technically, and then I had no idea like what the rest of the story was gonna look like, but that's already in the synopsis. Like this is the plot of the book. The point is A, it's a historical fiction, and B, they never forget each other. That's kind of how the story is set up. I think I mentioned this, but I wasn't really feeling the story up until like the 50% mark, because it was just them like, you know, being in love with each other. That insta love was low-key so irritating because I just don't personally love insta-love. They're very idealistic and childish about it, like the way that they dive headfirst into their romance. They're like, you're it for me and that's it. And they also like get engaged like super fast, and I guess that is more acceptable with like times in the culture, but I was like not loving it. Like, he was sweet, but I also like, it wasn't personally for me. If I'm like reading a romance, like that doesn't appeal to me. But it also makes a lot of sense because kind of the point is that they are children at this point. Like, they're really young. So it makes sense that they're acting like they're 17 years old. Like, you know, falling in love and it's your first love and you're like, this is everything. You don't understand. We're in love with each other. We can beat every single odd. I have all these hopes and dreams. And I kind of mentioned that he's really into politics. Like, specifically, he like loves the Democratic leader who's like, you know, there's all these issues where he might get overthrown. They have their fallout. Obviously, like, they were in love with each other and like something happens. So like they break up. It's like kind of miscommunication, but also kind of not. Like, reading it from her perspective, he was so dumb and annoying for like the things that happened leading up to their fallout. And so I was just like, I don't understand like why you like this guy. I like wasn't here for it. But then the rest of the plot happens where after she's like heartbroken from this loss, she kind of has like nothing left for her in that city. So her dad really encourages her to go to America and study and become like a woman in STEM. Like, that's his whole dream for her, like to be a scientist, even though like she really likes poetry and like likes reading. And she sort of just doesn't move on from this instance for like the rest of her life. I mean, she tries in a lot of ways. Her life is pretty like sad in a bunch of different aspects, and she does like do things that like make her happy eventually, but a lot of this book is just like kind of depressing, like coming from like a sad place where she's never truly the same after this instance. It's like really irritating that she doesn't fully move on, but it's kind of understandable because like, you know, it's like the plot of the story. It's like, you know, she never forgets her first love. And I just think that it's kind of like sad and terrifying to imagine never ever really moving on from your first love. Because I don't know, I've never been in a relationship before, but that seems kind of horrible and like non-idealistic. I think maybe because I'm just not the type of person that believes in soulmates, really. I mean, like, I do, but I don't think that if you like really like, I think soulmates is like you really click with the person, like they're your person. But I think you can have multiple at many times in your life. Like, I think it's normal to grow apart from people. It's normal to grow together. And you know, it's really cool that like people stay together for however long as they grow and change. But I also think like, especially if you meet when you're so young, like I feel like I've changed so much from the person that I was in high school, middle school. And obviously I still have friends from that period who, you know, like me, but I have changed a lot. And I feel like when you're in a relationship with someone, sometimes that change makes you not compatible anymore. And I think that's like a normal thing that people experience. So like the fact that she just does not move on, I know this is like the whole plot of the book, but it was just sad to like be in that space with her. The first 50% of the story, when they're initially falling in love, Roya's sister is also like an important side character because she's kind of with her throughout her life. She's like a D1 hater of this man and their relationship. She's like, you can't trust boys that are into politics. I just don't think it's gonna work out in the end. And it was like very, very cynical, but also she was real as hell because she was correct. She was correct in the end. Even though the way she like was a negative Nancy, like maybe for too long, she had hella valid points. And Roya was like hating. She was like, oh, my sister's so stuck up, which she was stuck up, but like, you need to have more common sense. Like, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm just like, I don't understand because I don't relate, but anyway, that was not important. Yeah, so the second 50%, it picks up a lot more because we like kind of fast forward through the rest of her life and we see how she's affected by the first, like this falling in love period of time for her. But I also wanted to talk about the fact that I think this works very well as historical fiction. I do enjoy historical fiction, and I think for me, like the bar is on the ground right now because one of the last memorable historical fictions I read was The Women by Christian Hannah, and I hate that book. It sucks, and it's really bad as a historical fiction because it doesn't really teach you a lot in like a way that is accurate and historically correct. And if you don't already know the history of the times, like you wouldn't really understand what was going on. But the setting is very vivid and it affects the characters like a lot. So I admittedly like didn't know that much about Iran during this time period, and I feel like I learned like a decent number, like a little bit more than I knew before, which is great. And I love to see the fact that like her setting really impacted her as a character, which is like what you need in historical fiction. So I think if you're looking to, I don't know, learn more about Iran during this time, I think this is a really good book to pick up for that. Another, like, a theme of this story is really shown through this quote that I wrote down, which is just, life has a way of squashing dreams. This kind of ties back to what I said earlier about, like, you know, losing your one true soulmate when you're like 17 years old. The way they looked at life when they were younger was so full of hope, genuinely. Like, they wanted to have this future together. They had this vision of what Iran was going to look like, what, you know, their lives were going to look like, and none of those things really came true in the end. And it really just makes you think about how we never really know what the future has in store for us. And it's really sad to be like, yeah, all your hopes and dreams from when you were 17 are going to be crushed. But it was an important perspective to have, and something that you should read. Also, another quote that I thought was really, I think, beautiful and affects, like, the whole point of the book is, it is a love for which we will never recover. I think there is a lot of beauty in the fact that even after you physically leave someone's life, you never really forget them. That applies to, like, you know, losing a relationship with someone, like the grief of what relationship you have, or I personally haven't dealt with like a lot of grief in that specific aspect, but I mean, I have stopped being friends with someone, for example, or just, like, you know, drift apart from friendships, or I'm just not physically close to a lot of friends that I used to have and used to be closer to because I moved away from home. And all those things, I think it's beautiful that, like, you still touch people's lives even though you're not next to them anymore. I mean, I think about my friends who have, like, shaped my life even though we don't see each other or talk to each other every single day all the time. It can be really easy to fall into this trap of thinking that you don't matter to the people that you have in your life just because of some circumstance or another. I don't think that's true for anyone. And I think it's heartwarming in a sense to know that you really do affect other people's lives deeply just by being a part of them. And that's awesome. I also thought it was really cool throughout this novel, the way that culture was passed down through food. So Roya, she moves to America. And obviously, like, being an immigrant is very difficult, especially as a woman, especially in, like, the 1950s. And one of the things that ties her back home, even when she doesn't have anything, she doesn't have her parents with her, and, you know, her life looks so different. One of the ways she stays connected is through cooking and through food. And I just felt like that was just a beautiful thing to read about, how those tastes and smells and routines stay with you even though you leave whatever country you may come from. I mean, my parents immigrated here, and growing up I always ate my mom's food. And one of the things that kind of haunts me to this day is the fact that I don't know how to cook Indian food, and my mom's recipes aren't, like, written down somewhere. So I don't know, like, when I want to and I for some reason couldn't call her and ask her for it, like, I don't have access to that. Like, I have to order out. And I think that that's sad, obviously, because, like, I love the taste of my mom's food, not just plain Indian food. I mean, Indian food is great, but it can be bad at times if, like, it's not made to your taste. And me being in touch with Indian culture, like, I'm not admittedly super in touch. I'm very American, like, very ABCD. But I think the one thing that I keep with me is the fact that I really like Indian food. Like, I think it's so good. It's, like, definitely, like, top 3 cuisine for me for, like, the rest of my life. And I don't know, I just thought that representation struck me, like, very close to my heart because of it, and, you know, made me want to learn how to cook Indian food. And then the last thing I wanted to say in this non-spoiler section is just my overall feelings about this book. And I don't typically love this genre. I admitted this before in, like, the previous clip. Like, I wasn't loving it, not because it was, like, there was something wrong with the story. It's very well written. I just, like, didn't really care for this type of plot. And I think that's still true. Like, if I knew going into this that this story was a historical fiction about, like, a lost love that she was never going to get over, I probably wouldn't have read it. Sorry, I probably wouldn't have read it. But one thing I can definitely say for certain about historical fictions, and especially contemporary novels that are mostly just like a character study, like, we just follow her throughout, like, her entire life and see how events in her life shapes her. It makes me think a lot, and it makes me figure out, you know, what I appreciate in life. And I learn something new every single time I do this. And I think it really cements the fact that as a reader, if like in my ideal world, like my favorite book is probably like a high action fantasy mystery novel, something that's just like entertaining. That's why I love reading, it's entertainment. But you can't only do that. Like you can't just entertainment, one after the other, just reading only as escapism. I think that that's a missed opportunity. You need to throw in like a nonfiction every once in a while, or like a historical fiction where at least you can learn something from the context of the book. Although I just don't typically love these kinds of stories, even though they're objectively like it's a good book, I would give this book like a full 4 stars. Like I would recommend it to other people. Like it wasn't totally up to my taste, but it was a great book, and I think it's important, and I've gained a lot of value from reading it, which is a great feeling to have about any book. So I think that if there's a type of book that you don't typically read, I recommend that you read it anyway, if it's like known to be like a well-loved book, like a classic or whatever it is. Even if it challenges you to be a little bit outside your comfort zone, I think that's a good thing. That's my final rating of the book. I thought it was a great book. You should pick it up if you're interested in historical fiction, or if that plot line interests you. And if you're leaving the video because you want to go read it and you don't want to hear my spoilers, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. But if you're still here, I'm about to go into my spoiler section. Full warning. So, a large portion of this book kind of centers around the fact that she endures a lot. Her life is sad, but she also, life goes on type of vibe. For example, she, wants to read poetry and just novels forever. But then her parents, specifically her dad, kind of push her towards science. So then she goes to America because she has nothing else to do, really. And she studies like chemistry. And then she's like, okay, I want to career in a lab, like that's her goal. And then she fails at that. Like she doesn't end up being able to do that. She just works as a secretary, which is still like, okay, it's a decent job, but it's not what she wanted. And she was like, this just sucks to suck. Like this is just my life because I'm a woman and I'm an immigrant and it's like the 1960s. Like this is just what my life is like. And she has to learn to live with that. And I think that's like kind of hard to read because, she just keeps losing. Like the whole book, it's like, she loses her, like, the love of her life. She flops in America in terms of her career journey of, like, half the reason she went there. She ends up meeting Walter, who is her husband, and she's in this marriage, but, it's not ideal or it's not perfect. Like, she's never truly in love with him. For a lot of the story, he just, like, is a life partner. It's very scary or sad to think about, at least for me. Can I imagine myself in this sort of life? What if my career aspirations and like my hopes and dreams like don't turn out the way that I want them? And what if I end up in like a loveless marriage? Like that's pretty sad. That was like something that her endurance, and I don't know, that's like a weird way to say that, but like her perseverance through life, despite the fact that like all these things don't work out for her, is very admirable, I think, to see. And in addition to all of that, she's also ends up in America, in a completely different country than her home country, away from her parents, away from her culture, especially specifically like before the coup happens and like there's a big regime change. But like that was a life that she loved, and it kind of is talked about in the novel how she misses all those things, and that's really hard for her. And that's hard to see as well. Like it's hard to be an immigrant. But I think that ultimately, altogether, this like cultivates into one of her like worst things that happens to her, which other than, losing the love of her life, which is that she loses her first child, which kind of ruins her. Eventually she does have another, but when she loses her child, which is like a huge fear that she has before she even agrees to like have a kid, like she just is left angry and upset and with like grief. It makes you think a lot about her life in the sense that, like obviously like losing a child is terrible, and motherhood is a beautiful and transformative experience in so many ways. But from the perspective of someone who like doesn't really want kids, I think that this kind of love is terrifying in a sense. Like I understand that when you become a parent, like your whole life revolves around your child. And I think that's like normal in a sense that your child deserves, unconditional love and support. And so like you don't have as much time to yourself. That's just a reality. But I also think it's important, even as a parent, to like have your own life, with hobbies and things that fulfill you outside of your own child. Like that's not really, in my opinion, like a proper way to live. Like, I don't think your life purpose is to only have children and raise your children. Like, you also deserve to have a meaning and fulfilling life outside of that. And the fact that when she loses her child and then when she has another child, she kind of mentions that her life is only happy during that time because it revolves around her kid when he's growing up. It's beautiful in the sense that motherhood is beautiful, but also very sad in the sense that her own life has just turned out, I guess, horribly for her, that she can't find really any joy or purpose in life beyond, you know, being a good wife. And that's it. That's like the only thing keeping her going. I don't know. I think that's just like hard. And then in addition to like speaking of like the losing her child moment, I thought that the parallel between her losing her own child and like the literal evil like mother-in-law of she would have had if she married Bachman, it was really, I think, interesting to see like that parallel, because like her potential mother-in-law, I forget her name, is painted as a villain. And I mean, she is a villain, like she's horrible to her. But the fact that she has so much empathy and shared life experiences because they both lose their children, and you see how deeply it affects them as a character, makes it so, you know, she's not just like a plain bad guy, no nuance. It's like you really understand what it's like to be in the mother-in-law's kind of head too, because you see how Roya suffers. And I thought that that aspect of like the parallel and also just like the empathy and the complexity of their characters because of that was just very well done. And I appreciated that. I also thought that the moment where when her sister-in-law changes and comes back and celebrates like her culture with her and kind of apologizes for like kind of pressuring them to have kids and all this, and Roya like breaks down, almost cries because of how kind she is to her. I thought that that moment was really nice and really beautiful. I don't know, I loved it. I thought it was great. Wow, character development. I love to see it. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on is the truth in the end about, you know, why her first love fell apart, which for those who aren't interested in reading the book, but you're listening to me talk about the spoilers, is essentially her mother and the guy who runs the stationery shop. They used to be in love with each other, and he kind of did her dirty, so like really dirty. So he feels kind of indebted to her. The mother-in-law wants to break them up, and he helps her do it by like tampering with and giving letters that are really misleading. So when they're both supposed to meet up, they both think that they're meeting at a different location. So then when the other person doesn't show up, they're like heartbroken, and then they get a letter from the other person that like both of them didn't write, that is basically like, you know, I don't want to be with you anymore, like please respect my choice. And that's like why they aren't together, even though they both loved each other, and like they both didn't want that to happen. But when they are reunited in the end, he has Parkinson's. So Roya doesn't really trust his memory, but then she gets a stack of like his letters that date all throughout, you know, their childhood, letters he wrote to her but never sent. And it explains all of it. It explains the truth of, you know, what their love story was and how he always loved her and always missed her and always thought of her, even when, you know, she thought that, you know, he didn't care about her anymore. Not only is it cute, but it really emphasizes the importance of written history, because like the physical art form of writing letters, because everything is so digital these days, and it's already showing when they're writing letters to each other that those things can be tampered with. And I think our online digital history right now is so easily tampered with as well. And it's so dangerous that things can just be deleted from history because people are only writing these things online. And now like all the archived stuff, like if you've seen with what Trump's doing, it's like he's just deleting it off the face of the planet. So you can't say that like this website used to exist, because it doesn't anymore. And the fact that like, you know, people aren't in touch with physical media as much is terrible. Like you can expand this to so many things, like the fact that movies these days and TV shows aren't on DVD anymore. They're only on streaming services. And then once all the streaming services decide not to, you know, show them anymore, like the media disappears forever. And if you have a Kindle and you buy a book on the Kindle, you only own a license to the current copy of the book. Kindle and Amazon and publishers, whatever, they can take the book off your Kindle or change the words on the book whenever they want to. And that's like not the original text that was there. But if you buy a book and you own it physically, like as long as you don't lose the book, there's no one changing that forever. Like, you own it. It's yours. It was really interesting to see how that act of preserving physical media is what really revealed the truth in the end to Roya, that, like, you know, he always loved her. So I just thought that was interesting to think about. But that kind of wraps it for all my notes. I am looking at the timer and I can see I've literally been talking for 30 minutes. Oh my god. Like, I'm sorry this video was so long, and props to anyone who sat through the whole thing, because I don't think anyone did, but that's the whole point of me making these YouTube videos, because I want to talk about books and no one will listen to me about them. Thank you all for watching this vlog. I know it's quite a long one for just 2 books. But hopefully the next video that I put out is going to be my book club book video. Or maybe it was the one before this. I don't really know. I've been working on that for literally a full month, and I hired my sister to edit the video for me. But I still have, like, I wrote like a 5-page script for it, and I still have a lot of it left to film. So it's gonna be a long video. So it's taking a while to work on, and I can't just like turn on the camera and yap at the camera. So thank you all for watching. I will see you in the next one. Appreciate you guys. Bye.